This is an Irish independent podcast.
Well, Friday night, we got to talk about Friday night. The boxing ended up in both co-events. Unanimous decisions. Katie Taylor got the nod over Amanda Serrano and Jake Paul got the nod over Mike Tyson. Earlier on, we had Dan McDonald reporting from Wembley. Now Colm Keys, fresh from Texas. When do I get some of these gigs? Is there a room that you go up and get these handed out?
I'm sure your time will come. You have a bit of an apprenticeship to serve around here, Joe, before you get that.
Well, that's fair. We will get into the fights in a moment, but in more general terms, the Texas AT&T Stadium experience, did it live up to the hype?
More so, from my point of view. Have to say it was a great occasion. Magnificent stadium, presentation, everything about it. And obviously, the Taylor-Serrano fight was just electric. And I think those from Texas and those who had flown in, and they'd flown in from many places to come to the fight. And obviously Tyson, Paul is a big draw. But I think they were completely engrossed by what Taylor and Serrano produced. Obviously hostile towards Katie towards the end of it, when the issues with the head surfaced, especially from the 8th round on, you could really sense the hostility. I thought there'd be more hostility towards her, but from the 8th round on, you could really sense it, that they were against it, very, very much against her, very much pro-Serrano at that stage. And I think it was over the head more than anything else. They came in with a largely mixed view. I thought that the Paul connection might have leaned the crowd more towards Serrano, but that didn't really manifest. But all round, as a spectacle, in AT&T, where there's a back to the bread and butter of the NFL tonight, but a magnificent stadium, the roof on. I wasn't in Madison Square Garden, so I don't know does the intimacy of Madison Square Garden make the decibel level even rise more there, but it was certainly very audible, and especially from about the 5th, 6th round on, when it became apparent this is fight of the year territory again. It was electrifying, and just the branding, the TV screens, everything about it, from my point of view, magnificent occasion. Obviously, the main event, once they walk in and the climb through the ropes and the bell ringing and all of that, and Iron Mike is introduced, and then they start fighting, and it becomes what most people would have expected at that stage. And like that, the crowd were leaving before the end. They were shot out straight away afterwards. There was nobody hanging around to find out what the result was. A lot of disappointment in the place, but I think they got enough from the previous fight to sustain anybody who came in there. Obviously, they would be disappointed with main event, but the contrast between the two, I think, has really done female boxing a service, that they were placed side by side against each other. And I think that contrast really makes for the next step in female boxing, because I think the gender lines were very much blurred. You don't think of it as a women's boxing bout. You think of it as a boxing bout on its own. That's where it stands. And I think that's the one takeaway I'd have from it. Nobody could see the distinction.
Yeah. I didn't realise the place emptied out before the decision in the second fight. That is so damning.
Yeah. As the last round, they were leaving before. Through the last round, they were leaving. They were booing from the 6th round.
Well, that didn't come through on the
very much so.
feed.
They were booing from the 6th round into the 7th. The dearth of punches really got going. 8th round, they were leaving. Definitely leaving. Walking by me, by the press stand and out. And the very second the fight was over, there was nobody hanging on for the suspense to see who won or anything. It emptied. I mean, obviously the decision is called within a minute and a half. And there's just handfuls around the ring at that stage. It's over. They're gone. They've cleared out. And the general sentiment was, we've been had here. But obviously, Taylor Serrano carries it and sustains it. And if there is to be a trilogy, I'd be very interested to see what the vehicle for that will be. Will it be part of another one of these show bouts, or will it stand up again on its own like it did the last time, and maybe in Las Vegas, or maybe Croke Park? But I would say more likely it'll be a Jake Paul, an MVP promotion. Again, perhaps, maybe joint with Eddie Hearn, but I think probably on the other side of the Atlantic. I think more of that audience will be drawn in after after last Friday night, and I suspect Netflix might be interested in it again.
You'd have to think so. It was eventful right the way through. Taylor Serrano, even up to and including the press conference. There's footage doing the rounds whereby Eddie Hearn at one stage is quietly relaying to Brian Peters and Katie Taylor, I can't actually be in the press conference with you. I'm just hearing it's actually, it's Katie +1, only 2 go up. Now the backdrop here, just to mention, this emanates from the first Taylor Serrano fight in 22. Paul and Hearn are suing each other at the moment. Paul accused Hearn of paying the judge, Glenn Feldman, following Taylor Serrano and Usyk Joshua. So Hearn said, well, that's completely slanderous. I'm suing you. Now Paul is counter-suing him. So this is all kind of bubbling away. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Eddie Hearn was told you can't go up for the press conference. And who arrives on the scene to hear this? Only Brian Peters.
Are you joking? Are you out of your mind? Everyone else gets 3 people up. Don't be acting this shit.
Fine, don't worry.
3 people go up or not at all. Come on,
you.
big boy. Make your decision now. Make the decision.
Let's make the decision. No, we will.
We're not going up. 3 goes up or not at all. Your call. Very simple. Make it. Come on, big boy. No, she's going up. She's going up with the 2 others. That's the way it's going.
Betty. How we doing, guys?
Excuse me.
Quite an intimidating thing to be under pressure to make a decision with someone calling you big boy.
Well, he wasn't all that big either. He's the Magna Media, one of the Magna Media handlers, and he's certainly not. He's not certainly not.
Come on, big boy. What is it? Come on.
So from that point of view, that's obviously the undercurrent there, and that there was a bit about that beforehand with Eddie Hearn. Was he going to be part of Katie Taylor's team? They accredited her. Katie was asked about it. Would Jake Paul actually at the press conference said, well, it was him that revealed that they've applied for accreditation. They want Eddie Hearn in as part of her team, and it wasn't quite clear, I think, until the actual day of the fight. And Paul's partner at MVP, Nikisa Bedarian, who was quite vocal during the fight, you might have recognised him there. He was sitting agitating quite a bit, and he was in the ring, and there was a confrontation between Bedarian and Eddie Hearn afterwards, because obviously Eddie's celebration when he got into the ring, they probably felt it was a bit provocative. Here's a guy that's suing us. He's in our ring. He's in the middle of our fight. He's only a promoter. And they had stressed, well, there's no promoters going to be involved. So from that point of view, then he comes down to the press conference. So there were words exchanged between the two of them in the ring. You can see them exchanging. Hearn had been denied access to Katie's dressing room after the weigh-in. He revealed this afterwards, that he was denied access to the weigh-in. So there is clearly agitation between the two camps, and then he comes into the press conference. Now, I think they were right to hardball it and to whoever they wanted up, because there may be no promoters, but Mike Tyson didn't attend the post-match conference, but 3 of his team did. So 3 of the team were up there. And Bedarian, as the promoter, was with Jake Paul. So he was with Jake Paul after the fight. So there's a little bit of inconsistency there. Okay, Eddie Hearn's not the promoter, but he was an accredited part of Katie's team. And her team, Brian Peters and obviously Katie, they wanted Eddie Hearn up, and up he got and ran the show, really, because he's obviously the more bankable quotes are from Eddie Hearn than Katie Taylor or Ross Enemy.
Yeah, I'd say Brian Peters ran the show a little bit as well. There, big boy.
He wasn't up. He stayed clear. But he was right to hardball. I mean, they're entitled to have who they want up there, I would have thought.
Here's a sense of, and we'll get into the fight in a few moments with Johnny Nelson, who's going to join us, but just to get Colm's kind of sense of behind the scenes and being there. Here is just a sense of Katie Taylor in the press conference, asked obviously about the achievement, but also the headbutting and was she the rightful winner? These were some of the themes in the press conference.
What do you attribute those headbutts to? How did those happen, in your opinion?
It just happens sometimes when you're fighting against a southpaw, especially. The fighters coming close, and it just happens. It was completely accidental. I mean, they're calling me a dirty fighter or whatever, but that wasn't purposely done. Obviously, I'm in there fighting like she is, and it's a rough sport, and sometimes you get head clashes. You have to fight through those things. This is the fight game, I fought her twice, I beat her twice. All the judges were in agreement, so I really couldn't care less what's been said about the fight. I'm standing here again. I'm 2-0 against Serrano, and I'm very, very happy.
Can we do it again?
If she wants, yeah, I have no problem doing it again.
The general thrust of the press conference, was it happy, joyous? Was she fending off lots of critical questions?
Yeah, quite a few. Bit of focus about the use of the head, obviously, and there was warnings, and it happened in round 4 and again in 6 and again in 8. So it was a very prevalent theme afterwards, and there was a lot of criticism of Taylor throughout the stadium, even among fans. There's no doubt about that.
Well, you could audibly hear the stadium. There was the initial cut with the head, and then Taylor, as is her wont, targeted at times, and so it cuts open to that really grotesque cut. And amazing camera work when you think boxing, you're in the ring, and when it zooms in on the extent of the cut, you could hear the whole stadium gasp.
Yeah, and I thought in round 6, when the physical examination, the referees call him for the doctor, you think it probably won't go on. The cut is too severe. And they ask her a simple question: are you okay to go on? She's hardly going to say at that stage, do you know what, I'm out of here. I thought they would have made a call for that. It was a severe cut.
Commentary thought it was done as well, actually. I think it might have been Roy Jones Jr. said, I think we're done here.
Yeah, you would have got that sense that it's so bad, it has opened up so deep that it would not be, it would not be in our interests, as to the future. How could it be to box on for 3 more rounds and have that targeted with the ferocity and the speed that Katie Taylor was clearly targeting it with?
Yeah, so I think it's such a bad cut that frames the question into Taylor. If she'd been doing exactly the same thing with her head and the cut wasn't as visible, I'm not sure the questioning would have been maybe as pointed or frank.
Possibly not. But it did happen again in the 8th round. I thought actually the calls in the 8th round were harsh. If she was, if there was to be a point deducted, maybe in the 4th, but obviously the referee at that stage thought that's accidental. But it happened quite a few times after that. So I think it was a collective penalty as much as anything else at that stage. I didn't think it was as apparent in the 8th round as maybe it was in the 4th. But I don't think he could attribute it to a deliberate headbutt. That there is a clash there. Roy Jones actually did say it in the commentary. That's the natural gravitation of a southpaw and an orthodox fighter.
Yeah. And she was asked about Trilogy. I presume she's gung-ho for that?
She is, and surprisingly said we've already agreed for 12 3-minute rounds. I don't think that would suit Katie Taylor as much. I don't think it would be the spectacle either. I don't think the same spectacle would manifest because of the speed of the punches over 10 2-minute rounds. That brings the action. I think we'd see something much slower, and I don't think it would be at the level of the last 2 fights, which people would expect would happen. But 12 3-minute rounds, a whole lot different than the speed of 10 by 2.
Okay, well, let's bring in Johnny Nelson for more.
Good try.
Serrano looking to equal the all-time female record of 32 knockouts, currently held by Hall of Famer Christy Martin. Both Taylor and Serrano fishing for the KO. Final 60 seconds. Katie Taylor, one of Ireland's most decorated athletes. Amanda Serrano, all about Puerto Rican power. Blood, guts, glory, history made again. Taylor and Serrano with an epic encounter. What more do you want from professional boxing? Simply incredible.
Wow. I'm standing up on my feet. Wow.
That sums up what you missed if you didn't catch the fight. Very happy to say, joining myself and Colm is Johnny Nelson, of course, very much of the Brendan Ingle school. He was WBO Cruiserweight champion 99 to 06, and that makes him the longest reigning Cruiserweight champion in history. Now, of course, very respected broadcaster in his own right. Johnny, great to have you on.
Thank you, boys. It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Taylor Serrano, we were hoping it would be every bit as good as the first fight. I think it just about was, no?
It was. You know what? What a performance! What a show! What a show stealer, and what an opportunity to do it on such a platform, regardless of what you think of these YouTubers and Mike Tyson. I think the viewing figures were 65 million people around the world, and this is why occasions like that, even though we may criticize through boxing snobbery about these YouTubers getting involved in it, it gave a platform for such a performance. Any young girls out there, anybody that's interested in boxing out there, male or female, will think, wow, that is true great determination art. And that's happened the second time around. And these two were so well matched. I think Katie Taylor, she was criticised for using the head. I think that's Katie's style. She's not actually literally trying to butt you. She's head first. she's chin up. She's trying to put. She's an offensive fighter. She's a foot first, and she'll put the shots on nice and fast. Serrano, she was trying to outbox and outsmart Katie and walk it down, and Katie actually used her boxing skills to negate that, because Serrano was a big unit. I really put it on her. I think the fight gelled perfectly. I think it showed such an example for other fighters that are out there that are trying to claim they're the best in the world. You know, these two fighters truly believe they are the best fighter in the world at their division. And performances like that, I've never seen any female performances like that that didn't involve Katie Taylor.
You mentioned the 65 million viewers. I'm sure that'll creep up closer to 100 million over the course of the next couple of days. People will hear about the fight and watch it back. They will no doubt, possibly influenced by the commentary, be of the opinion that the wrong fighter won. Just have a listen here to Rosie Perez, who... I mean, people will know Rosie Perez from White Men Can't Jump. She's a huge boxing fan, and I guess this is where...
from.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I guess the fight game needs a bit of a glitz. Roy Jones Jr. there, of course, needs no introduction, and Mauro Ranullo was the commentator. So here is the reaction from the commentary team when Taylor gets the nod from the judges.
And still, the undisputed super lightweight. You know what? Texas has always been a cauldron of controversy, and I cannot sit here and it's just, I mean, you cannot take anything away from Katie Taylor and her legacy. But my God, how does one rob Amanda Serrano after a bravura performance like that, Rosie?
I think this is going to be an asterisk on Katie Taylor's legacy. I thought Amanda Serrano won the fight, not just because she's a Boricua. I'm just saying that she was a warrior. With that headbutt, she just kept going and throwing the more effective, more power punches.
So, Johnny, that's presented pretty much as a scandal.
So, first of all, you know, I always say managers stick to talking about managing. The promoters stick to talking about promoting. Fans stick to being the fan. If you're a fighter and you're in the ring, you know. And so it's a case of what you like. Do you like the aggressive? Do you like the sharp shots? Count the shots up yourself. We are gifted with hindsight. So we can look at the fight again and count the shots strong. Do you like the aggressive, stiff, strong stance that Serrano had, or Kate's fleet-footedness, bashing and boxing style? It's what you go for. So everybody's entitled to an opinion. And realistically, the way the fight was set up, situated and everything, you'd think it was set up for Serrano to get the win. So why didn't she get the win? Maybe because she didn't win. The fight was close. The fight was so tight. And even if they said a draw, I wouldn't have argued about it. I think there was probably about a round in it, but I think Katie Taylor, she was smart. She pickpocketed, rat-a-tat-tat out the way. So every 2 or 3 Serrano dropping her, Kate would be 3 or 4 or 5, rat-a-tat-tat. But Serrano seemed more of the aggressor with their style of fight. But Kate kept coming dipping in and out. So she was smart. She had to box smart that way, otherwise she wouldn't have won. So everybody's entitled to an opinion, and I get it. And it was emotionally charged. I get it. If there was ever a stage set for Serrano to win, that was the stage set. So why didn't she win? So it's just emotions talking more than anything else.
Colm, you made precisely the same point.
I just think the consistency of the judges scoring 95, 94. How often do you see such consistency that, you know, they can't all be wrong like that? You had a judge from Texas, you had a judge from Indiana, a judge from Canada. And Johnny's point is well made. The speed, the hand speed, the fleet-footedness of Taylor, she was getting shot. And even looking back at it again, you can see at close range her combinations. Judges are close to that. I just think the consistency with which they brought, if everything was in Serrano's favour to get that judgment, even the noise in the stadium with the booing, the crowd, all of that has to have an impact on judges. And yet they insulated themselves and watched, what did they see? And that was critical to it. And I think by a lot of consensus of people, and Johnny there is agreeing, Clarissa Shields came out and said, I'm a great friend and a great fan of Amanda Serrano, but Katie Taylor won the fight. So many people in boxing.
Turn the volume down and watch the fight again. I always do that. I turn the volume down and watch the fight again. And so when you get this biasness that you're hearing, or when you hear the crowd, look at the fight, no sound, look at the fight and watch, and you say, okay, I get it. They were emotionally charged. I do get that. And you know what? And unfortunately, our sport shoots itself in the foot and gets it wrong. They didn't get it wrong that night.
And Johnny, it's really interesting. So I'm not watching with the same keen eye, obviously, and I noticed the aggressor more, and I kind of thought, God, Serrano's on top here. It was notable after the Netflix commentary kind of expressed their shock at the decision. They almost then used the stats and the punches landed and with the numbers to kind of validate their opinion. They said, look at these numbers. I mean, come on. Okay. So talk to us about the stats.
So they're basically saying, look at, believe me, not your lying guys. Turn the volume down. Watch the fight yourself. And there's many times there's stats being put there, judges make decisions, and they're telling you you've seen something you haven't seen. Again, use your naked eye and common sense and fairness. And this is why, if you're a fan and if you're an honest, and listen, if Serrano won, I'd have said she's got it. If they did a draw, you know what, I wouldn't have argued about it. But when Kate got it, I got it rat-a-tat-tat. She was 5-3, 5-4, and I get the power shots were coming in from Serrano, but Kate's tactics were the only tactics and the best tactics that got her the win.
Yeah. I mean, the commentary at large was strange. Look, I get the showbiz aspect. You want someone like Rosie Perez in, fair enough. Right. I thought Mauro Ranullo wasn't even calling the fight. It was just hype. It was like the fight started now. You don't need to sell it anymore. Just like commentate on the fight. But the most inexcusable aspect of the whole production was Perez and Ranullo are calling the decision a scandal. And nobody thinks to ask Roy Jones Jr., who's just sat ringside. Well, what do you think? What do you think?
And there's one thing you've got to keep in mind. Everybody loved the fight. We're singing its praises and everything.
Yeah.
But you've got to look at those two girls, the performance they put on, and they're damaging fights. They are damaging fights to fighters, and we love a good fight. And the fans are saying it should be this, it should be that. Those two girls put their heart and soul on the line and put on an amazing performance, which were damaging fights that can affect most fighters down the line. So everybody's ignoring the fact that, yes, it was great, it was this, that, and the other. You've got to give credit to them both for the way they fought, the shots they took. Serrano's cut was down to the bone. If that was anywhere else, I'll tell you what you've got to think of this. If it was a robbery, if that was anywhere else, that fight would have been stopped because you could see the bone in the cut, and they had every excuse to stop the fight. So you had people there doing a job. The stage was set for Serrano to win. She didn't get pulled out through a cut that she should have been cut, which could actually affect the rest of her career because that cut was bad, and they let her box on with it. So again, you think to yourself, well, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, that's why they've got their job and we've got our job. Now, I personally think we've seen the best of Katie Taylor, but the best of Katie Taylor still beats 99.9.5% of the fights in the world, and she's constantly proving it.
When will she retire, Colm?
It'd be a great way for her to go now. The off-ramp is Katie Taylor wants to retire on a win. The longer she goes on, the more she risks that. But I think the temptation to go back in there, almost a public demand, the boxing public demand, and maybe the wider public demand as this resonates, I think she'd be tempted in there one last time. I don't think there's any other fighter out there. I know obviously there's a trilogy there with Chantel Cameron, but where's the money? Where is the hype? It's with Serrano more than it's with Chantel Cameron, which is on this side of the water. It's another bout over there. And I know Croke Park would be the absolute ultimate for Serrano to come in here, but I'm not sure that's going to happen for a few reasons. I don't know what the relationship now between obviously Matchroom and Croke Park is. How much do Croke Park want to have a fight in there? I'd suggest, I wouldn't say there's huge amount of desire for it. Obviously it can be fixed, it can be arranged, it's a venue. But I think the interest in America will be even greater now, much greater, because it's had that Netflix platform. And I think there will be demand for it. Obviously Katie could say, no, I'm out here. And she didn't show the same signs of weariness, I thought, that maybe were there a few years back. I think she has, and you just wonder, is the less is more approach. That was her first fight in a year. She's had far less fights than obviously in the early part of her pro career. I think there's only one more opponent out there. Even though the trilogy is settled, she's 2 up. That can't be taken away from her.
Yeah.
And that's the other point I'd make. I mean, even if judges were leaning to, let's get this on to a third fight between them and let's give this judgment narrowly to Serrano, that could have played into their minds too, and it didn't either.
Yeah.
So she's 2-0 up in this trilogy. She doesn't actually have to go down to settle it. It's not that. It's just that the demand. And they're both very much, they're pioneers for female boxing. They're almost evangelical about it in trying to spread the word of it. Both fighters, both Serrano and obviously Katie Taylor, for a long time in her career, they want to spread the message. Even Serrano's comments about her payment, what I'm getting for this, and she's intimating she's got more, and I'm happy to put out there that what we got, or close, that it's a lot of money, because I want young female fighters to know this, that we are now getting what we deserve in terms of payment. So they are very, very much pioneering in that respect, in wanting to push their product as far as they can and bring it as far as they can. And a third fight, and possibly in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, might just do that. And at that stage then, I think Katie Taylor might leave it.
Okay. Johnny, there were two aspects to Taylor's performance I'd love to get your thoughts on as the fighter here. The first, well, you've referenced it already, but we might just tease it out. Here is Amanda Serrano's coach, Jordan Maldonado, who quite literally takes the mic post-fight to express his displeasure at Katie Taylor in her head.
I think she alluded to the fact that she would be open to a third fight. I'm assuming you would be as well.
Listen, it's up to the team.
Headbutting is not included.
Listen, yes, it's up to the team.
Headbutting is not included, and we get a fair referee, one that knows what he's doing and is going to do what he has to do. Because when you're getting headbutted repeatedly, and the ref is, I'm doing what he didn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of headbutting. Amanda Serrano has 50 fights. The first time she ever got cut was the first fight with Katie Taylor. If you look at Katie Taylor's fights, you'll see a lot of her opponents have gone on with grotesque swelling in their head. Look at the way Chantel Cameron looked. Cuts in their face. She fought Nina Ment. They stopped the fight on cuts, headbutt. So that's nothing new. That's what they do. They lead with their head. And Katie's a beautiful person, but has an extremely huge head.
So Roy Jones Jr. in commentary talked about that southpaw orthodox issue where the head clashes can happen. And Johnny, you're of the Brendan Ingalls school where switch hitting is such a part of the style. So you'd have a great insight into this for us. Is Katie doing something untoward here?
No, she's not. And I've seen untoward headbutting, and you saw none of that. Katie's style is her style. She doesn't go in with the head to try and, but she's a front foot fighter. She lets the shots go. And let me just go back to your other point. I don't think money is Katie's god. So for a third fight, and you offer the ridiculous money, is Katie? Do I think money will be a motivating factor? No. Katie loves to fight. I think Katie, her style of fight, she's got to be fresh. She's got to be on it. She's got to be on point, because her style of fight is why she's so successful. The problem is, if she boxes anybody below par, for her to get up to that fight standard, to perform like she did on at the weekend, it's got to be something like Serrano. So has she got that in her? Has she got that to go back to the world? I don't think anybody else can bring that kind of fight out in her. So again, it's a case of her desire. She loves the game. She eats, breathes, and sleeps boxing. So it's a case of her desire. It's a case of who's in her ear, who's speaking to her to get the best out of her. I don't mean the businessman, someone that's doing a selfless act for her to say what is best for you. I think Katie's style has always been that front foot. Chin, at times, actually, a chin's in the air. So why is nobody complaining about that? Because Kate will come in, her chin's in the air, and she's letting the shots go. Because when she was fighting, like, get your chin down, Kate. but that she's straight in there. So she's not purposely trying to butt somebody. So when she's letting the shots go and she was a shorter fighter and that southpaw style, you are going to clash. Everybody hates fighting southpaws because it's ugly. It's awkward. There's not enough southpaws around for you to box them perfectly and cleanly. And this is what happens with that southpaw style. I think everything leads towards, and I hope Kate says, "No, I'm done. You can only have enough money. Yeah, I know I'm done. I hope she's made a mad amount of money out of boxing. Finish at the top. Do what Lennox Lewis did. You know, when Lennox Lewis beat Vitaly Klitschko and there was so much noise about him coming back to fight, went, nope, I'm done. Leave at the top. And that way you will always be there at the top, no matter what in the history books."
The second aspect I wanted to ask you about was at one point the referee said to her, it was quite a pointed line, he said, "You're better than that," about her holding. She was clinching too much, he felt. Like, is anything wrong with that?
No, there's nothing wrong with that at all. He was giving her respect where respect was due. You know, he's saying, you know what, but and the thing is, remember, he took a point off her. So she wasn't getting any favours there. So what she did with what she's got, she got the win with what she's got. She didn't cheat. It's an old school. Everybody does it. They might have a hold, might have a lean, might trying to drop a shot in the blind side of the referee. You're fighting. You're not playing tiddlywinks. You're in there to fight. And that's what both fighters were doing. They were in there to fight. So when the bell goes, it's take the muzzle off you go. So the referee showed her respect. He showed restraint. He told her and took a point off her. So he wasn't giving her an easy ride. So when who robbed who? Because the stage was set for Serrano to win.
Let's before we wrap up, hear from Mike Tyson in the ring after he lost unanimous points decision against Jake Paul.
I don't think so.
You've got more in you. Who comes to mind?
Well, I don't know. Maybe his brother.
You want to fight Logan? Logan, I think he said you might be next.
I'll kill you, Mike.
No, please, no.
It's on then.
Johnny, what do we say about this fight?
I don't want to I love Mike, and I think Mike, first of all, I've got to give respect and props to Jake Paul, because Jake Paul stepped off. Jake Paul could have taken advantage of Mike. Mike is 58 years old. He's probably older than Jake's dad. When he walked back to the corner, he looked old. And I think Jake, once he realised, you know what, I can actually take this guy out, he showed respect for such an icon, and he didn't take him out. And Mike, he looked his age. That style of Mike Tyson's style, even when he was a professional fighter doing it for a living, as a young, that style suits a young man. It doesn't suit an old man, and it certainly doesn't suit a 58-year-old man. So when Mike Tyson's talking about doing it again, you know what? They must. I'm surprised, but I don't know his situation at home. I don't know the finances he's in. I don't know if he's still got millions to pay off the tax man for. But I hear it, I see it, but I don't want it to happen because there's boxing snobbery going on, and us boxing snob didn't like the fact that some ex-YouTuber had bought a scalp in Mike Tyson, and he did what he did, but he didn't take advantage, which I'm sure Jake Paul, the problem child, usually does, and he let Mike off the hook, and so I applaud him for that.
You'd almost Colm used that fight as an argument against sanctioning Tyson fight someone else down the line. Like he almost looked unsteady on his feet, even his balance, his legs were gone. Even from Roy Jones Jr. was saying, even in the 4 years from when I fought Mike, this very different physical specimen.
Well, he had his knee strapped as well, so clearly he had no suppleness, he had no litheness. He could not, his legs could not take him to where his mind wanted to take him. He just could not. It was the lower part of the body that he had the trouble with. He just could not. Movement, mobility was really, really compromised. I felt all week he looked his age in among. I thought it almost dawned on him. What am I doing here? I just got that sense that he had realised, okay, I've taken the money and that's it, and I have to get through this, but that's what it is, get through it. I don't think we'll see him again. I'd agree. I don't think there'd be a sanctioned fight. I think that's it. There may be some more Jake Paul fights. I think for Katie Taylor and Serrano to have that vehicle of Mike Tyson coming back in. And obviously, Mike Tyson walking down to the ring, climbing through the ropes one last time, the bell ringing, that whole atmosphere, that he's back on a stage like this, for people to be able to relive a bit of the 80s and 90s. Yeah, that was great. But once the fight started, it played out pretty much as anyone thought it would, and really the only way it could. But obviously, some people would obviously feel some value in Mike Tyson coming back into the ring and being there to experience all of that. But no, I don't think we'll see him again. In fact, I'd be sure of it.
Yeah, Johnny, you're sort of saying you don't have that boxing snobbery, which I'm almost surprised at, given like you're such a kind of like such a quintessential boxer, like a craftsman, and you're watching somebody like Paul come in here. I just thought it would just drive you nuts.
Yeah, no, he does. But the fact that, remember, all week long it's been Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. People forgot Katie Taylor was on the bill. You know, so obviously this young man and these YouTubers, what they're doing is they understand the business of our sport, because there are many, many fighters out there, traditional fighters out there, that aren't getting the platform and the publicity that these guys like Jake Paul are getting. But there was an opportunity for Kate to get on there. Now, the lesson learned for traditional fighters is you are your business. Don't leave it to your promoter. Don't leave it to your manager to promote you, to get yourself out there, to get the crowds. So Jake Paul, what he's got right is the business side of it. And he's actually not a bad boxer, but he's annoying. But he's got the business side of it. Okay. Right. So for traditional fighters, they need to understand, I need to sell myself. I need to make sure I can create the interest so people follow me. I need to take a leaf out of his book. Because 77,000 people in the stadium, it's never been done, and that's because of Jake Paul. So when it comes, but Jake Paul, is he going to fight anybody that's near his age, near their full ability? No, he's not. You know, and I looked at that. My daughter rang me and said, "Dad, you should do that. You're a year younger than Mike Tyson." I said, I know that.
You're looking in good shape there.
But in your head, you've got to think to yourself, Mike Tyson, you've got to be able to, would I be able to live myself that I've gone in there for 20 mil to get knocked out against Jake Paul? You know, and if it did happen, now I think I'd beat him because my style's different from Mike's. Mike's style doesn't suit an old man.
Okay.
But Jake Paul is not going to fight anybody he's buying scalps. Anderson Silva, people like, he's buying scalps. He's doing the business side of it. And so until that time comes when he meet someone that matches him, age, appetite, and whatever, that's when it'll be exposed. But right now, he's making most out of the business. So we all benefit from it. We benefit from it because of the crown that it gets people watching Katie, gets people watching the card. Badu Jack boxed on one of his other undercards, former world champion. You're thinking, what is wrong with this picture? So it's for the boxers today to actually learn how to push themselves, publicize themselves, be their own business. So the likes of Jake Paul can't leapfrog you and take over something that you've done since being 4 years old.
And it'd be interesting for us to get a sense, where would you position Jake Paul, say, even just take the British rankings, where would he be in the top 100 fighters in Britain?
If he's going in at Cruiserweight, I'd probably put him, I've got a kid called Shannon McDonald that I'd batter him in Sheldon's like number boxing for a Central Area title. I'd put him at Central Area level.
Central Area level. Yeah. So just kind of a district, not even competing in the national conversation. Yeah.
Well, we'll put him, can you imagine putting him with someone like Vidal Riley? Vidal Riley would make mincemeat of him. Can you imagine putting him in with Joe Gallagher's got a fight, I can't remember his name. There are so many fights. Can you imagine putting him in with someone like Chris Bill Smith, who boxed at the weekend? You know, so what I'm saying to you is, and he's talking about fighting Canelo, this is a money grab. It's to get the interest in. And I'm not slagging his boxing ability off, because the kid's actually not a bad boxer, but he's not a world beater.
Yeah.
He's domestic level.
He actually has name-checked Conor McGregor in his post-match or a post-fight press conference that he wants to fight Conor McGregor, but he's fairly sure Conor won't accept the fight.
So common sense is this: look at the weight difference. You know, so Conor McGregor still might have more life left in him than Tyson, but you know, it's that weight thing. And the other thing's this: if you keep shouting your name against these big names like Conor McGregor, like Canelo Alvarez, even if it never happens, your name is mentioned in the same sentence. It's not stupid, it's business.
Johnny, it's been great to have you on. Hopefully we chat again sometime down the line. Johnny Nelson, thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's do it, boys. Thank you.
Johnny Nelson with us there. That is, as we bring this to a close, somewhat reassuring in that he's very independent. It's not a green-eyed bias, obviously. Taylor, the winner, no case to answer for either with the movement of the head. And I think, that's that really.
And that's a sentiment across boxing. When you strip away the Netflix commentary, that is a reasonable assessment that was there with Roy Jones on the night.
Not that we got to hear it afterwards.
No, but it was there. If you listen,
fight,
it's there with him. Clarissa Shields, Terence Crawford. There's a list who believe great fight, close fight, bit of use of the head, but Katie Taylor won it. That's the general consensus.
It is the general.
Narrowly.
I did hear Carl Froch, for instance, in his podcast saying he thought Serrano won, but there's obviously going to be some difference of opinion somewhere.
Yeah, but I go back to this, Joe. 3 judges, 2 of them from the States, 95, 94, consistent. How do they all get that consistent? That resonates and aligns with what a lot of people thought as well. That 95, 94, with the point deducted, that's what it was. A close fight and maybe a draw. But she got the verdict. She got a verdict of 2 US judges in an atmosphere that is hostile, and that isn't necessarily lending itself to the idea of a trilogy that she's won 2-0. So it's a Jake Paul promotion, MVP. You think everything is against Katie Taylor, and it was, and she won. So she has come against all of that.
And you know what? It's a pity, actually, because as we bring this to a close, it suddenly strikes me we've been talking for the guts of 40 minutes. We've had Johnny Nelson on. We've talked about what a great fight it was, but obviously the validity of the decision is a kind of big talking point, and Taylor's headbutting, the accusation is a big talking point. Haven't actually stopped to say, my God, once again, what an achievement by this complete freak of nature. Like what a career she has put together here.
And it dawned on me afterwards, coming away from the stadium and in conversation with a few others, you would ask the question, is she really, really appreciated for what she is over here? I know I probably would not have appreciated her as much beforehand, the level of achievement. And to go out there, 72,000, 2 best female fighters ever, probably pound for pound. And she wins again in such a hostile environment. And it is a great shame that she can't get into Croke Park and realise that one last dream to fight in there. And if it was Serrano, I mean, what an occasion that would be. Would it sell over the other side? Maybe not. Maybe it has to be over there. Maybe it has to be in Vegas or somewhere. But I think for sure if there is to be another fight, and obviously there's a body of opinion that thinks but the next time she fights, she could be 39. So as time moves on, and certainly if it took as long or even half as long to set up a rematch, the first fight took a long time to get on. The second one, obviously there was mishaps. There was a couple of mishaps, one involving Tyson, one involving Serrano herself. 2.5 years on. If it was even half that time again, that's way too long. It probably has to happen next summer and then a line drawn under it.
Yeah. I was chatting with Ronan earlier, and he was making the point that one of the great things about the 2-minute rounds, and you were talking about it earlier as well, but he was saying if you go behind in a 2-minute round, you can't hang around to get back into the round. You need to win it. You need to make amends and to go on and win it very, very quickly. And that plays into the kind of freneticism that we see in these fights between Taylor and Serrano. So I sort of share your concern over 12 3-minute rounds. Is that like, do you interpret that as Serrano wants to level up the playing field and she's pushing for that? Or is there any degree of these two saying, we've been playing kind of 2020 cricket. Let's do a traditional test match cricket match for women's boxing?
I think it's that, it goes back to that pioneering element, that promotional element, not for themselves, for their sport, that they would really be levelling up with the men's game if they went 12-3, that is the next step for the broader mission to promote female boxing, to get it up there on the same level. But I think it will strip away from the action that they have produced. I mean, you look at the last 10 seconds in Madison Square Garden, Katie Taylor throws 12 shots
right?
in 10 seconds. And it was similar at the end.
Yeah.
You know, so you do go behind in 2-minute rounds. And the instruction from Katie's corner was very much, you have to win the last round. And she followed that to a T. The number of clean, crisp punches she threw in that final round, and just she got on the front foot for that. I thought she worked a bit on the back foot, and there was side movement, and she was evasive. She was more disciplined in the first half of the fight, and then she decided, no, I want to get stuck in here, and she really got stuck in the last round. And they were very similar, maybe not as good as the last round in Madison Square Garden, which was one of the great rounds, but the 7th round last Friday night was just another epic round. I mean, if you're choosing rounds of boxing, 10 in Madison Square Garden, 7 in Dallas. 2 of the greatest rounds ever, right across the board, I would think, right across there, just magnificent. But I think the 12-3 stems from trying to project female boxing at a level that's right there with the men's. Let's be the first. We need to be the first to do 12-3. And from that point of view, but it would be really, really taxing. And I think a different fight. I would imagine a different fight.
God, it sounds like amazing to have been at. That will keep you warm when you're at Kingspan Breffni in January.
Or somewhere next weekend, maybe RD or whoever. But it would, for sure. It was a great occasion, Joe. There's no doubt about it. And when she fights next time,
you're willing to
we'll
go.
have a word upstairs to get you out there.
Well, we'll do a live podcast.
I think we'll let you at it.
Colm Keys, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.